Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Automation Star 2025 on this great second day of the conference in Amsterdam, where we keep rocking the conference scene. We just finished the keynote. We had a very interesting keynote with what's his name, Dave Harley.
Dave Farley, yes.
I was looking forward to. Sadly, I couldn't attend, but I will make sure to check the recording. Beware, if you are enlisted here on the platform or you came here, I think you can see the recordings afterwards, so stay tuned. But now we have another thought leaders. He's not a presenter this time,
No.
right? Other times you have been a star of the scene, but a very experienced conference, Eurostar conference fellow, professional thought leader, our amigo uh, Seb Rose.
Hello. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I have been at a couple of Eurostar conferences. Yes, conferences it's one of my natural environments. Exactly, yes. So it's good to be here. Thank you.
It's a natural habitat for many of the people that you see here. Is where I think many of us thrive and feel like fun and
Yeah.
having a lot of good times. But now, amigo Seb, for the people that do not know you,
Mhm.
would you mind sharing with the audience who are you, what do you do, and what makes you special?
I can do certainly the first couple of questions. So my name's Seb Rose. I have been developing software since around 1980, and in the past 10 years or so, I have specialized with behavior-driven development and agile practices. It's obviously not very fashionable to talk about agile anymore, but it's just a way of describing iterative and incremental ways of working with teams. I was the author of the Cucumber for Java book. I was a founder member of Cucumber Limited, and so I've been certainly contributed to the behavior-driven development community. And together with the Automation Star Conference chair, Gaspar Nudge, we self-published a couple of books over the past 6 or 7 years about behavior-driven development. And those books were called Discovery and Formulation, and they are now we've now been contracted by Manning to write a book called Effective Behavior-Driven Development, which plug is available as an early access book, and that is going to bring together both the discovery and formulation books that we self-published, together with a third part, which is called the BDD Automation Patterns, which I hope to talk to you more about in a minute. So that's what I do at the moment. I'm an independent consultant. I still do a little bit of training and coaching for teams when they come and ask me, but the focus at the moment is to try and get this book finished. It's been a long time.
A trilogy on BDD. That sounds. I'm going to call you the Dan Brown of BDD now, writing all the books on.
Okay, I'm not.
Not everybody loves it.
No, I don't like that
author,
but yeah.
I know. Yeah, well, I'm going to think of another better author too.
Okay, thank you.
Pull it up, buddy.
Okay, cheers.
But no, I think it is amazing that you have been for so long working on BDD. Is something that it was really trendy a few, maybe a decade ago. But it's still very relevant. I still hear it all over the place. It's still being adopted. People are starting to get into it. Funny enough, it's been out there long enough, and many are finding the benefits on the model, the ways of thinking, and something that caught my attention that agile is not so much something that people are interested in. Why is that?
So I think the trouble with agile is no one ever really defined. Well, it was defined what it was. I mean, it's well understood what it is, but
everybody understood what they wanted, right?
Yeah, and the way it's been implemented has been implemented in a soft way, which has been management friendly. So we've had an awful lot of other people have called it sheep dipping, where people go through one-day courses and get certificates. It's not that the agile practitioners are not well intentioned, just that they aren't given, they don't necessarily have the right skill sets, and also they don't get the sufficient backing. So we had a keynote this morning from Dave Farley, who was talking about continuous delivery, which also has been very trendy for many years. And people adopt continuous delivery and yet still don't see the benefits that he was talking about. That's because they haven't adopted it they've adopted it partially, but not completely. They haven't embraced it. And a lot of agile adoption has been like that as well, where teams are not kept together, then they aren't close to the customer, they are multitasking. There are lots of things that you really need to get rid of if you want to be productive in working that way, and don't disappear. They persist from the old management style. And the trouble with Agile is that it migrated quite significantly, I think, over the past 8 years to a coaching culture rather than a technical culture. And the divorcing of the Agile practice from technical practice, I think, was always going to cause issues, because in the end we write software, we test software, and we deliver software, and that's got to be at the heart,
the core of
what we do. Yeah,
not agile for the sake of agile, rather than and the way that you describe it makes me think a little bit. It's a part of the strengths of agile, that it's kind of flexible and you can adapt to what you need, but it became part of the weaknesses because people were like, oh, I can do whatever I want, and then whatever, or my interpretation of it. Sometimes to me agile is like ice cream, or do you know if you call it ice cream, gelato, or sorbet, or like, is this and some places in Mexico where I come from, gelato is the water one.
Yes, sorbet. Yes.
And for you, it's a different thing, and many organizations. So it's interesting that you bring it up, and I'm curious, BDD, how did you come to be like exposed to it or interested in it, and it's how does it fit with Agile? Why was it like? I know more or less, but would you mind? Like,
yeah, sure. So I mean, I came across BDD when I was working for IBM, and I was trying to close the gap between the people who thought they were specifying the problem and the development team who were trying to deliver on those specifications. And along with most people, I think, that have played with Cucumber that will be listening to this podcast, I saw it as a testing activity when I first found it. Luckily, we talked about the conference habitat. In the conference habitat, I met Matt Wynn, who was one of the core contributors of Cucumber in the early days, and so he generously helped me to understand that behavior-driven development really was about driving development rather than doing automated tests. Remind me the second part of your question.
No, and the way why it became important, and with Agile, like this integration.
Yes. So behavior-driven development was coined. It came out of Dan North's.
First of all, I'm thinking, for the ones that are not familiar with the term, what is BDD?
Yes, so that's what I was going to do. So Daniel Terhorst North is a consultant working out of London, and he was trying to teach developers test-driven development. And his first observation was that as soon as you use the word test, developers went, I don't like this very much. And so he began to try and think about how can I move this away? And over a number of years, he, along with Chris Matz and Liz Keogh, sort of worked on a tool called JBehave. And JBehave introduced the Gherkin language that a lot of people will be familiar with, given, when, then. And essentially, behavior-driven development builds on test-driven development, which itself is an iterative and incremental way of specifying a small change in the system, automating a test to demonstrate that behavior is not yet in the system, and then you make a small change to the system, and that test then passes, and you go, right, I have now got a specification about what the system was supposed to do, which we've turned into a test, which verifies or validates that the system does behave like that. And behavior-driven development broadens it out by allowing us to write that specification in business language so that our product owner and our business stakeholders can also collaborate and contribute in writing those and can confirm to us that, yes, that's what we meant. And then we as automation engineers or developers can write the automation code that links that specification directly through to the system that we're developing. Now, there's an extra benefit here, right? So I don't know if you or any of the people listening have ever have ever been in a team that have been asked to maintain or modify a product that was created maybe by another team a few years ago. And you go,
it's made in COBOL or something.
yeah,
I'm
no,
crazy,
but even in Java or Rust, whatever, these our systems, our products typically live for years, and so teams change, and so do the requirements. And you come along, you go, well, you want us to make this change, but what does the system do now? How does it work? And you go, well, go look at the wiki, and you go to the wiki and it's all the pages are 8 years out of date and the system has changed since then.
Windows XP screenshots and
yeah, exactly. So the wonderful thing about working in a behavior-driven approach using business readable specifications that are automated is that with every build of the system, the automation validates that the documentation still describes how the system works. So you have documentation that you can rely on, and which is called living documentation in the parlance.
Because I love that you're the partner defining it as a wiki, not just documentation.
Yeah.
That's the point of what we have in our software projects, that it's constantly evolving, easy to edit and all this. And it's, I think, a core principle for BDD to work well. In my opinion, it's like a feedback loop, because when the documentation is not right, the BDD and vice versa, you kind of have to have both well to be able to keep working.
So this is I guess the point. There have been a lot of people who I respect deeply think that Cucumber and Wreck and Roll and the whole use of Gherkin is an abstraction too far. It's a challenge to maintain that layer. However, and they propose that the names of your unit tests could equally document the specification. And while I don't disagree with that, at one level it can, it's not as accessible for our business colleagues. It doesn't look enough like traditional documentation for them to feel comfortable with it. So this is where I think behavior-driven development using tools such as Gherkin adds an extra benefit. And that way, when you write the specification, you can write it without thinking about the technical implementation of how the automation is going to work. You focus entirely on the business requirements and describing how the system should behave from a business perspective. And that then presents some challenges when you come to doing the automation, because you want those requirements to be written in natural language. You want them to be idiomatic. Ideally, you want them to be in the natural language of the core team that are specifying it. So in Mexico, it's probably not going to be English, right? So there are some challenges then about doing the automation, because the way Gherkin works is that each step, so each line effectively of an example, it starts with given or when or then, but each line maps directly to a method of automation. And it's very simple to then write either very mechanistic steps, which is given, I navigate to this page and I click this button, and these things are not, this is not what the customer is typically asking.
Natural wording.
It's not natural wording. And equally, it's very often what I see is people keep saying, given the customer does this, and then the customer does that, and then the customer does that, when the customer does something, then the customer well, we keep on repeating this word customer. That's not how we talk in natural language. We introduce a person to start with, and then we talk about they or it. And so there are some automation patterns that can really help make it easy to write automation code that facilitates the usage of natural language.
That's an interesting step, because to me, it feels at times like it's almost like an art because we are so used to programmatic languages.
Mhm.
And I feel at times that you end up like the Terminator, negative, affirmative, we exterminated the bug,
Yes.
and very, very plain, very straightforward, not natural like
Mhm.
a person would use. And this brings several possibilities of an evolutions
Mhm.
that you are working on new, then your new book, all the new, uh, well, tell us a little bit about what you're working recently on
Mhm.
and why is it different?
Okay, so I mean, it follows. I mean, straight from what I was just talking about. There's essentially, Gaspar and I have been working with clients who have been adopting behavior-driven development for quite a long time. With some of them, we've had some success, and with some of them, we haven't. But what we see is that the only times that the behavior-driven development actually sticks in an organization is when the business-facing members of the
The
community, of the
team
team,
or
buy in, right? So if you have Gherkin scenarios,
because it's
feature
the side
files,
that has the,
yeah,
the true
possibly.
power.
Well, it's possible. The thing is, if you're writing business readable documentation and the business don't read it, well, what was the point of writing the business readable documentation? So you
Probably
have,
was not business readable.
well, exactly. It probably wasn't business readable, or it wasn't in the way they wanted it, or they didn't get it at the right time, or they didn't have enough control over how it was written. And so what we do is we have the business, and we get the business involved right from the beginning, and ensure that we craft those scenarios, that documentation, in a way that is meaningful and useful to them, so that they can quickly say, this is correct, that's not correct. And so I think what we've been doing over, what we've been accumulating over the past 10 years is patterns of automation that allow us to support that idiomatic language.
Hmm.
We, for the BDD automation book, we went out to the community and um, we got submissions from about 40 or 50 of our peers about
Nice.
describing patterns that they had seen. And so those patterns included, Dan North and Liz Keogh, and lots of people that maybe you won't have heard of, who we will be
Who had
crediting in the book,
only experienced
who've
that?
all experienced. Yeah, they've been out there, they've been on the coalface, they've been working with customers, and so we're going to be. We collated all these patterns together. Gaspar and I have a spreadsheet. We've taken the duplicates, we fed them together, and then earlier this year, we put together a short pattern paper. Um, so a subset of the patterns, maybe 7 or 8 of those patterns, and I took them to the Europlop conference, which,
Ah.
so plop, great name. Plop stands for Pattern Languages of Programming. And
Ah.
there's one that takes place on the west coast of the US, and there's also, for over 20 years now, there's been one that's been taking place in Germany.
Huh.
And the patterns community have developed a really mature way of giving constructive and yet brutal feedback on your patterns. So what you do is you take your pattern language and you get put into a workshop for the 3 days of the conference with the same 7 or 8 or 10 people,
Right.
and each contributor gets an hour's worth of review. And the way the review works is that you sit in the room, but outside the circle. You are not allowed to say anything. And what you do is you listen to 8 other experts discuss and criticize what you've done in your pattern language, and you get a huge amount of valuable feedback. So we put our proposed pattern structure and a subset of the patterns through this process, and we got a lot of feedback, very, very good feedback, in the sense that I've got a lot of work to do to change the way we do it. And so we're now working through, we've got somewhere in the region of 50 patterns that we need to push through this, and that's going to be released in the early access program over the next 5 months or so.
Okay, we will try to stay tuned for that. Now, because I really, really want the audience to get lots of benefits from these patterns, from
Mhm.
this knowledge that you have. We're starting to wrap up
Mhm.
this interview, but do you have some recommendations for the people listening who may not know BDD, who may not be into these patterns, to understand? What would you tell them to help them in their journey? Or
Well, I mean, so first off, I guess I have to say that already
come to that training?
yeah, no, I'm not going to try and sell training. I actually, here's a caveat. I think training is often not that valuable. So training is a good way of getting an introduction to a specific technology. When we're talking about something as nuanced as agile or behavior-driven development, training is useful to get media exposure, but I think coaching is so essential, and it's often deemed too expensive. So no, I'm not going to try sell training. I will try and say that our effective behavior-driven development book at Manning, it already has the discovery section in it, which is the most important one. So I'm going to recommend that because actually I think it's a very valuable place. Equally, there are some great pieces of advice on BDD from Dave Farley on his channel. He mentioned it
he
today.
has a lot of good,
yeah, he mentioned it today in his keynote, and he describes it almost exactly the way that I would describe it. That's a good thing, I think. We agree. In fact, if you search on his podcasts, you'll find the conversation that I had with him last year or the year before.
Nice.
There is also the cucumber.io blog. Gaspar Nudge does an occasional newsletter that points to interesting articles. And I have done quite a lot of blogging on the cucumber.io blog, and there is one series of 4 blog posts about how feature files are not the same as user stories, which I think is a really good place for someone who's familiar with Agile or Jira types of user stories to try and begin to see the mapping between how stories fit in and where feature files are an evolutionary way of capturing the incremental functionality that user stories deliver.
That is that's quite a lot that I was not expecting that you would give so much to. No, but it's better because everybody tuning in gets more information, more places where they can learn, grow, understand the experience as well. Not just go to a training and have the. It's really important. And now to close up, where can people find out more about you, about your books, about the blogs? Where can they get in touch with you? How's the easiest way to find you?
So, I mean, the easiest way to get in touch with me is on LinkedIn. I'm also on Mastodon, Blue Sky. I'm still on Twitter, but I don't look at it, so don't go there. Gaspar and I have a website called bddbooks.com, which has very little on it, but it points you to where books. You can find our books. As I said, the cucumber.io/blog is a really good place to find out more. And just get in touch with me. I'm very happy to enter into conversations with anyone who's interested to converse.
Thank you very much, Seb. There you have it. Check on the screen here. It should be his name floating, and you can find a way to reach out. I'll ask for the link as well for the books pages so that you can find them, buy the books, and get learning. The Manning ones are the ones that keep evolving and that you keep writing on them.
The Manning, yes. So we obviously had to withdraw our self-published one before Manning would publish it. We can't sell it you can't undersell it. So yeah, Manning, I'm afraid, is where you have to get it now.
No, but it's great because you see the evolution and how you keep growing the knowledge and how it's getting. I highly recommend it. It's fun to interact with the Manning books. It's I have had some experiences and I'm like, a new part. Yeah, it's like
exactly.
Watching a television series, like, a new episode is out. So, Seb, thank you very much. It has been a pleasure. Really, really a pleasure. And there you have it, everybody. All you wanted to know, well, probably not all. There's so much about BDD.
Or maybe more than you wanted to know.
That's a possibility. But of our amigo Seb. So stay tuned because this is not over. We are just starting. We have several interviews today, but I have a talk in 30 minutes. So I'm going to get out of here. We're going to get out of here. And we will have our amiga Linda following up with some of the interviews. I think it's with Lalit Kumar that she's going to be talking to in a few minutes. So stay tuned. Afterwards, I'll be back and we'll keep switching like we did yesterday. So this is the second day of Automation Star 2025. Stay tuned because we will be back. For now, Leandro out and Seb out. Adios, Seb.
Bye.
Adios, everybody. Ciao.